Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolina Kanapinski. I am based in Arizona in the United States. I'm 24 years old, and currently I just wanted to share my story about being a young professional in this world, of being a young woman in this world, trying to have career goals and all of that fun stuff, and going through the ebbs and flows of life, and just being a human in general, and how hard that is alone, besides when you're having such ambitious goals and just keep on striving and keep having all of that energy to move forward. And yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, and that's just a whole funny thing in itself. It's definitely, you can take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl. That's what they all say. So up there in the Northeast, it's very ambitious, very go, 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 got to build stuff fast and big, got to do things big and all of that. And I was very much raised in that environment. So when it came to picking college and all of that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do all the typical societal norms, career goals, thinking like, oh, I'm going to get the fancy office and the high rise and all of that. And it's just what I always pictured. And I ended up going to school at the University of Central Florida. And I didn't know why I chose communications, but I did. I chose communications. I look back now, I really see that it was the right fit for me, the right piece to my puzzle, because I've always been fascinated about people and the way we talk and the way we communicate and shared stories and writing and all things of art and all of that stuff. And it just was something that I was actually journaling about today, because I'm currently working on a book, and I was journaling in it, and I was saying how it really is something to pick up what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 18 years old and you have no idea what you have no idea even who you are or what you like, and you're still figuring all of that out. And I think this is something that we as a society are now talking about a lot more, and bringing more awareness to it, and giving people a lot more grace and compassion when it comes to these things if they don't have it all figured out. And it's awesome, and it's the change I wish to see in the world and the change I hope to be in this world. And with that, it just was a long journey for me. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but knew that I was in the right field. Something just went with my gut. It felt right to be in the communications degree program there. And I just grew to become really, really fascinated with it. And what I was journaling earlier today was that, I've really, over the years, noticed, learned a lot more about myself and, things I'm passionate about and really who I am, and stepping into my own And I realized that a lot of it stemmed from when I was a child. A lot of things were pretty similar, and that I was always really, really fascinated by people and their conversations and their expressions and the way we talk and the way we sing and all things like that, all things communication. Basically, everything is always communicating with you in some way, shape, or form. It really is everywhere. We live our lives surrounded by words. So a lot of people, gave me the the diss of being in a bull degree, like a bad degree, or like a dumb degree, or something like that. Like, what do you even do with communications? And I ended up finding a love for public relations. So I set my eyes on that specific career role, and went with it. But I learned so much more in the process. And, that will always be just a job, but it's what I learned. And I've always been super fascinated with, like I said, people and just how we communicate. And that's really what it's all about. And you can learn a lot from it. And I took a lot of like nonverbal communication classes as well. And those were awesome and taught me a lot about people that I, needed to know and stuff. And I love people, and I love studying them. I think they're all really, really interesting. So again, when I was journaling, in addition to what I was journaling today, was that, I really think I am this truth seeker and creative mind type of person, and I've always loved writing, and that I've fully with my career. My career goals are still happening, um, and I'm still working towards, that role, and I still have that goal. But that's like fun for me, but really who I am to my core is a writer, a creative, an artist. And I've slowly learned that over time. I've had a lot more, always been writing, and I've always been writing about stories and specifically people and just how they communicate, how they tell things, and wanting to be like, oh, that's really cool. I want to tell it this way. I want to express this in this way because that person was awesome and they did it awesome. So here, let me show this to them. So that's kind of what I like to do, is like share experiences through these works of art. And that's something that I very recently learned about myself, and am really stepping into it. And it feels very good, and it feels rewarding because I feel like I spend a lot of my life wanting to already be there, already have that success. And it's so tiring and stressful, and you really, really beat yourself up. And like most people, I am my worst enemy some days. And, I'm really, really hard on myself, especially when it comes to all things career success, all of that, and with the societal norms, what we're supposed to have, be or do. And I just think that, it's a long journey, and that you really have to take those earlier years to really explore and find yourself. And I think it's really important, especially for young women, to, not be afraid to try things, and not be afraid of judgment, because we grow up in this world of so much judgment towards us, towards our physical standards, and dismissed for a very, very long time on our career standards and our intelligence, and feeling like we were incapable for forever. And that's caused a lot of people to, shift their interest, shift what they present themselves to the world as. And I think, like I said again earlier, that we're in a world where more people are waking up to that idea and becoming more compassionate and kind and understanding, and letting people be who they are. And it's beautiful. And I want more people to do it all the time. I'm like, come on, no, just don't judge, And yeah, so it's just really, really hard to go through all of that. And it's something that, I really appreciate you, for Gertrude, for having, a show like this, having whole mission, whole compassion, whole drive for wanting to share people's stories. And, just really showcasing that, like, these people are trying so hard and not getting, enough recognition. And it's just like we want to showcase a lot of people because a lot of people do awesome things in this world. And that's also something I believed. And I think a lot of people have different disadvantages to their life. And I think, you get dealt with your cards, and you get the you get dealt a set of cards when you're born, and that's kind of your life for a while. And it's really hard to think that you'll ever get away from, that environment or that environment, just that environment. And when you are aiming to get out and when you do see that light, it's a tough battle to get there and to figure yourself out in the process and to pay rent and go get groceries and do your laundry and all things, it takes to just be a human, let alone all the other things we can't see, the things that are emotional and mental and spiritual. And I think those are a lot of things that I love that we're seeing more and more about in this world. And the reason why I'm sharing this part of me as part of my story is because it's something I'm really, really passionate about, and that's been a part of my story. My name means warrior of the people, and through my name Nicolina is a Greek origin name, and it stands for warrior of the people. And yeah, it's just become very apparent in my life, and I've always known that, but didn't really quite have a idea on what it was. And I realized that I kind of am always rooting for the underdogs, and maybe not even the underdogs, but just rooting for everybody, rooting for, like if the world's hard enough and our career goals, our relationships, our family, all those things are hard enough that it's like we don't need to keep pushing this judgment out there. And we really just need to realize that we're all the same on the inside. And I know a lot of people share this message with me, and I'm grateful for that. And it gives me motivation to keep going, that more people are out there that, are striving to do their part, shed their light in the best ways that they can, while also still prioritizing their needs and their self-care and self-love, and those things are very, very important. Another thing about me is I got my yoga teacher certification this year. I have always done yoga since I was about 16 years old. It was something that I always wanted to do, thinking like, oh yeah, I'll just get it and then I'll always have it and then I'll continue practicing and maybe I'll do like retreats or something. And I didn't really have much of a plan with it. And I said that years prior, and I got it this past year, and what a journey that was. I grew so much in the 5 months that it took, and on a spiritual and emotional level. And it just really opens your eyes to a whole nother world. And I love sharing my love for yoga with people, because what I learned is that yoga isn't necessarily all the postures or anything like that. Yoga is just a way of being, a way of connecting your mind to your body, to your spirit. And we all have one, that's fact. We all have all three. So it's just a way to kind of sit there in this world of chaos and, just put your hand on your heart and just kind of take a deep inhale, be in that present moment. And that's it. That's yoga. That's meditating. Even if you only do it for a little, that little check in makes a difference. And it's really important to check into our bodies and be aware of how we're feeling, because a lot of this can express out to the rest of the world, and like it can show up for you in other ways. And yeah, it's just kind of really cool. And I've always been fascinated about health and mental health and all of that. And had a lot of people close to me struggle a lot with both of those things when I was younger. And it just made me want to take care of my body, because it made me realize that we really only have our body and that's it. People leave, people come and go, we go through the ebbs and flows of life. I say this all the time whenever my friends or loved ones or anybody is struggling, even if I see a stranger struggling, I'm like, hey, it's the ebbs and flows, got to go through the good to get to the bad, or got to go through the bad to get to the good. And yeah, it's a wonderful journey. And yeah.
Wow. For someone so young, You have definitely become your name, warrior of the people. It's just
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure to listen to your story. Now, let me go all the way back to the beginning and your choice in getting a degree in communication.
Okay.
It's interesting how you weren't really encouraged to go down that route. People didn't quite understand why you chose that. But
Mhm.
communication is a very big part of everything we do in life, from
Mhm.
business to personal to whatever. What made you just hold on to the vision of finishing that degree? There might be another young woman listening to us right now who's
Yeah.
in a similar position, being pressured by
Okay.
family, by friends to
Mhm.
do something she doesn't want to do. What
Mhm.
made you hold on to your conviction?
So I am definitely a big believer in signs and going with your gut. And I saw a movie when I was like 13 years old, and they talked about a guy who was in the family, and he was like, oh, the family was making fun of him because everybody else was doctors, and the one son decided to go to school for communications, and they're like, oh, what even is that anyway? And he was like, it's the study how we communicate. And it kind of resonated with me, and then I got curious, and I had a friend who went to school for that, and she opened my eyes to public relations, and then I started kind of digging and thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm fitting this profile, I'm fitting this all the job requirements. Like I can kind of see that what's expected and all of that. So I was like, okay, cool. And then what really got it for me is I'm a big believer in daydreaming. I think we should always daydream for as long as we can. It's so good to use that childlike mind. And I daydreamed a lot because a lot of movies just fantasize like public relation careers, and whether it was like super strategic and crazy and chaotic or like corporate or anything like that, just movies and all the people that played those types of roles for me, I put myself in those shoes and kind of pictured the outfits I would be wearing, the way my shoes would sound like walking across the floor, what the building would look like, and I kind of just really liked that vision. I knew I was in that role, and I just couldn't let go of it. I'm like, oh, that's great, but you just got to kind of keep going because you have to remind yourself that it is what you want.
I love the daydreaming. I read a book once that said, if you aren't happy with your current reality, be unrealistic.
Mhm.
You can actually dream yourself out of the state you're in right now.
Mhm.
Because everything starts in our heads, right? It starts in the
Yeah.
mind.
Mhm.
You also said something interesting about you were always aware of the signs.
Mhm.
I just love listening to you because I feel like I'm hearing myself. This is the kind of stuff I would say. So the
That's
signs are
awesome.
all around us.
Mhm.
For me, it's when I pick up on synchronicity, when something happens two,
Mhm.
3 times. I'm
Mhm.
like, what is that? Why is that? Why did this
Yeah.
happen? What are the signs for you? How do you see when you're being guided in a certain direction?
Mhm. So it's funny as you were saying that, it was 3:33 on the clock, so I, like, checked the corner of my phone and was like, "Oh my gosh." That's so super cool. They're kinda everywhere, so I've always been curious about numerology, and the history of numbers was always fascinating. So I started to see those, and because I followed a lot of yoga pages, they would post things about angel numbers and manifestations and seeing feathers or birds or spirit guides or spirit animals or anything like that. So I kind of just did some digging and was like, huh, interesting. Like these things just resemble that. Everything has a meaning, everything has a symbolism. And I just kind of believed in that. And I like the way it's going for me because now I see things kind of all the time, and I can notice when I'm like being really, really down, and I'll just kind of be worrying. And then I get like a feather fly across the sky, or, something, right? I'll see 111.
But you have to be very, very present to see those signs.
Mhm.
So that was something else you brought up.
Mhm.
Um, I've had a spirit-led life,
Mhm.
absolutely charming life. I've
Yeah.
I've done things that, from where I'm from, my formative years growing up in a village in Africa with no
Mhm.
electricity, no running water. I've done things that have defied gravity, you know. I
Yeah.
even look back at my life and just
Yeah.
marvel at what has come up. But
Mhm.
when people ask me, why do these things keep happening to you? I think it's because I am very present.
Mhm.
I'm present to the people who come into my life, people who cross my path. Before we started this interview, we were a few minutes late. And I said to you, I need just to contact the person I'm interviewing next
Mhm.
so that I can delay her interview. She's just emailed me now and said, I can't make it.
Oh,
So it
wow.
looks like you and I are supposed to have a longer conversation.
Woo.
So being present is very, very important. So your
Mhm.
yoga practice sounds to me like something that gets you back into your body.
Mhm.
A lot of people's energy is really scattered. They're just
Mhm.
everywhere. What does yoga do for you? And why is it important?
Yoga to me, so like you were saying, the energy is really stagnant and just not good, right? And stuck. And that's kind of what we learned with yoga. I'm a firm believer in that we are energetic beings and that we all have a vibrational frequency we're giving off. And with that is, emotions that goes things on a whole nother realm. So emotions have all these vibrational frequencies, and sometimes when we hold things and we ignore our emotions and we just repress them, they stay stagnant in our body, and that's where we can have physical pains or physical ailments, diseases, all of that. And it's crazy how stress can really do that to the body. And it's because all those thoughts are energy, all of that is just circulating in there. And yoga for me helped me with a lot of anxiety issues that I had. And whenever I just couldn't shake it and didn't know what to do, I would go on my mat and just kind of start flowing and start moving around. And eventually, after a while, I would feel really good. And a lot of times, too, a lot of people will have super traumatic energy release, and they'll be in a pose that's kind of pushing a little bit, they're feeling a good stretch, and they'll start shaking just a little, just getting a little shakes, and then they'll just immediately start crying and have a big emotional release out of it. But then like the next couple of days you'll see they're glowing, they have such a different energy to them. And yeah, so that all goes with being present too and being more in tune to that.
I love it. Now, is there anyone else in your family who's spiritual? Where are you getting all of this information and this knowledge from?
No, so honestly, no one in my family. My parents and all my family was Catholic. I'm actually the only one in the family that wasn't. I was baptized in the Catholic Church, but both my sisters made their communions and confirmations, and I was the only one who didn't. We just moved, and I never re-enrolled as a child, and I never went. And then, it caused me to actually have a lot of kind of a little bit of depression when I was in high school and beginning of college, because when I was trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, I was kind of like, well, what do I really believe in? What even is life to me? I have to figure that out first, and what I want to believe in. And I just kind of was figuring that out, not really, not at all, kind of. And then I was still always doing yoga and always being a big believer in like, okay, you really think what you become, and just kind of having that presence, that check in with yourself. And I knew that was really important. And then when I went to my yoga training, I was learning a lot more, and I'm like, oh, they all think like me. Oh, okay. So this is kind of what I believe in. And I got to learn a lot more about that and those ways of life. And I also have always loved crystals and all weird spiritual things and Buddhas and all that. It was awesome. So,
It sounds like you found your tribe through
mhm.
yoga,
Yeah,
people
it
who
did. Yeah.
resonated with your ideas, your thoughts. You are really on the same frequency as them.
Hmm.
So, if there is a young person, a young woman listening to this podcast night right now, stressed out, confused, not knowing what to do next with her life, if you could give her three nuggets of wisdom based on how you're living your life and what you've learned so far?
I think I would definitely say you're always right where you're supposed to be. And I know sometimes that can sound crazy and be like, oh no, but I want to be here. But you're right where you're supposed to be. So just continue having your goals, but also having fun. So number two is have fun. Have as much fun as you possibly can. Live your life to the fullest. Those other things will always work itself out as long as you are happy, you feel good, the world will take care of you. You will be okay. You will keep going and just take care of yourself. And number three, um, never be afraid to stand up for yourself. Also, that's something, it's hard to learn, especially growing up in certain environments that we do, or being in certain relationships that we do. We feel like our voice is taken away, and we have to claim that back. And that comes a lot with, really learning who you are and knowing who you are, and affirming that, and being able to have opinions and not be afraid that someone's going to have a backlash, because those things are going to happen, but you have to stand firm in what you believe in and just keep going, and it gets better.
Your voice does matter. You're right. And the more we use our voices, the more we change the world. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you there. So, my last question for you is this. Let's have a little thought experiment. And I'm going to teleport you into the future.
Okay.
And you're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. You're sitting on your porch in your rocking chair, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, your dogs, your cats, whoever's going to be there with you at that time.
Hmm.
If you could go and talk to this wise woman, based on how you're living your life right now and how she's led you to that point, what would you say to her?
Let it all work out, and I think that's pretty much it. And then also, we did it. Know that we will do it. We will accomplish our goals. We will get there, and yeah, let it all work out.
I love that. I like asking that question because a lot of times as women, we forget that the wise woman is already here.
Hmm.
She's already
Yeah.
inside you, just waiting for you to catch up with her, and she's guiding you every step of the way.
Oh,
And
you're so right.
I sometimes struggle with things I'm trying to figure out, and I tap into the energy of who I am becoming.
Hmm.
I sometimes go into my meditation, my prayers, and I ask her questions, simple questions like, what is the next step before I go to
Hmm.
sleep? And
Hmm.
then I wake up in the morning with these light bulb moments where
Yeah.
tears come in my head, or I'm talking to someone and I mention what I'm struggling with, and they'll say something that helps me and
Hmm.
guides me. So I love to remind women that trust your intuition,
Hmm.
trust your knowings, trust your promptings. It's already inside you. You don't
Yep.
have to look anywhere outside of yourself.
Yep.
So thank
Yeah.
you for so much for gracing us with your presence, with your knowledge, with your passion to live life to the full. I can feel you're one of those young women who is on a mission to leave the planet a better place than we found it. And through your yoga practice, I read a quote that said, peace begins with me.
Hmm.
For there to be any peace in the world, it comes from each and every one of us to
Hmm.
find that center and be grounded and peaceful. So keep doing what you're doing. You are definitely on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here and for opening up this space like this. It's awesome. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. You pleasantly surprised me. I love this because I wake up every morning, I interview so many women, and every once in a while, somebody shows up and they turn out to be something completely different than what I had anticipated. So I've really loved this interview. I
Oh,
felt like I was
awesome.
talking to my mini me.
Oh, awesome. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
So, thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is connecting you with some phenomenal people from all over the world. Tune in again tomorrow when I interview another amazing woman. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay connected.